Welcome to our WISE webinar this morning. We'll begin shortly. We're just going to wait and see if a few more people join, and then we'll begin. Okay, we'll just give it a few more minutes, and then we'll begin the webinar. Well, not minutes, seconds. Okay, so welcome to this morning's WISE webinar. We're going to be looking at our diversity and inclusion training course. And this morning, I'm going to be giving you a little bit of an introduction to the course, giving you some insight into what topics we cover in it and the way in which we run the course. So my name's Claire. I'm Head of Products and Services here at WISE, and I'm going to be giving you your webinar this morning. Just a few housekeeping notices. So we do ask that everybody's left on mute for the session. If you're having problems hearing or watching this webinar, then please do shut down other applications and browsers, as they can sometimes interfere with the webinar. We'll be taking questions at the end. So if you do have any questions that you'd like to ask as we move through the presentation, please do type them into the questions tab on your control panel, and we'll have a look at those at the end. So just very quickly, to give you a quick update on who WISE are. So WISE is a membership organisation. We provide B2B networking services for employees across a variety of sectors and industries. Our ultimate aim is that we want to increase the number of girls and women in a STEM career. So we do this through thought leadership, through networking, collaboration with companies and organisations, training, such as this training course that we'll be talking about today. We also offer our fantastic 10 Steps benchmarking programme, and that's free to all of our members to join and gain support from. We have an outreach programme called My Skills, My Life. So all of this is on our website, so please do go and have a look afterwards if you haven't seen it. We've had 30 years experience promoting women in STEM, and we now have almost 200 corporate and academic members and organisations. As I've said, we have a wide range of sectors and industries. So our members range from academia to large engineering firms through to technology firms and even banks and organisations in defence and aerospace. So there's a wide range of sectors and industries to share best practice across. So just to give you a course overview of what's covered in our Introduction to Diversity and Inclusion, it's this workshop was brought together as a way of introducing staff and offering a refresher on the basics of diversity, inclusion, equity and equality. We have a specific focus on the issues and the sectors who employ STEM staff and want to increase the number of women in those areas. Usually the course is delivered over 4 hours, and we split it into 4 modules. There is the option to have smaller taster sessions, so sometimes we run 1 hour, 1.5 hour sessions for companies, and we do offer executive training sessions as well. So we can tailor the course and adapt it to your needs and your requirements. So the topics covered in the course are the importance of diversity and inclusion, equity and equality in the modern workplace. Why do we have these? Why do we need these definitions? Why do we have to worry about the business case for diversity and inclusion? We give an overview as a taster, effectively, of unconscious bias, how it affects our everyday decisions, what it is, and how we can try and manage those biases that we become aware of. And we also offer practical tips and evidence-based case studies for improving diversity and inclusion across organisations. So we take the information that we get from our members and we share that, those best practices and practical examples. So I just want to give you a little taster of some of the modules and some of the things that we do in our course. It's a very interactive course. Normally over 4 hours. We encourage staff to get interactive. We ask questions as we move along, and we don't want to be a static course presenting to people and giving information. We really want interaction. We want people to get involved in it and really understand and ask questions about why these issues exist in the workplace. How can they fix them? What can we do about them? So equality today. So there's been huge developments in equality over the years. We've got people of all cultures, countries working together, socializing together. Stereotypes are reducing, so we see less stereotypes, people are more aware of them. Positive attitudes towards LGBTQ+, disabled people have more rights than ever before. So the question is, why do we need diversity and inclusion training? Right? Why do we have to have any kind of training at all if society generally is moving towards a more positive inclusion environment? Wow, let's have a little sort of interactive piece here. So if you wouldn't mind, I'm going to ask you to pop in the chat or the questions function. Is it true or false that police officers' stab-proof vests are designed to fit both male and female body shapes? So if you wouldn't mind, I'll give you a few seconds just to put into the chat or the questions. Do you think that's true or false? Okay, so I've got a few people coming in, which is fantastic. So it's a mixture. Some people think it's true, some people think it's false. I'd say it's probably 50-50 saying true and false at the moment. Okay, so the answer is it's actually false. So police officers' stab-proof vests are not designed to fit male and female body shapes. So female officers going into difficult or dangerous situations wearing these stab-proof vests are actually at more risk of being hurt or injured because the vests don't fit them properly, because they don't take account of different body shapes. They don't take account of the fact that females happen to have breasts and men police officers don't. So that's just one example of where this need to think about a diversity in your workforce is really important. Okay, let's have another one of these. So in research, Google's speech recognition software was found to be 40% more likely to recognize male speech rather than female speech. So let me know, what do you think? Is that true or false? Again, please enter it in the questions section. So most people coming up to say it's true. A couple of falses in there. Majority of people answering think that's a true bias. And you're semi-right, actually. It is a bias. Google's speech recognition software, when it was first launched, was found to be more likely to recognize male speech than female speech, but it's actually false because it's 70% more likely to recognize male speech than female speech. And this is an example of potentially, Google's development team, probably mostly male at the time, who would have tested it? It would have been mainly male men testing their speech recognition software. And so you wouldn't necessarily recognize that female speech wasn't recognized by their system as well as male speech. I'm sure they've worked on it in the meantime, but this has implications in other sectors and other environments as well. So a woman recently buying a car found that her car wouldn't set up her voice recognition system on the telephone, and was told by the manufacturer, well, it won't, because these speech recognition systems don't recognize female speech as well patterns as well as they recognize male speech patterns. And so these little biases, these little problems that don't seem such a huge problem when it's designed, you know, something that can be fixed, they are more of a problem when they go further afield, and especially with things like technology, where you start using these sort of systems and products more widely. So we talk about, in the training, we talk about the Equality Act. We talk about the protected characteristics, the importance of the protected characteristics, and we remind people what the protected characteristics are. We go into quite a lot of detail about the legal implications of you know, of not taking into account diversity in the workforce, so not thinking about people's rights in terms of disability, in terms of their sexual orientation, their gender, all of these different areas. And so we talk about the Equality Act and the importance of the Equality Act as we go through. And again, you know, we have little scenarios where we ask our attendees to talk together about why would this be a problem in an organisation. So here we have a little scenario about Martin's job offer as a building worker being withdrawn because he had diabetes. The company believed he might have hypoglycemic attacks at work, so he was deemed a health and safety risk. Is this fair? Is this something that that we need to, you know, is this a legal discriminatory act? Do they have a point? Does the company have any way of justifying this position? And so we have these little scenarios, we ask attendees to talk through the implications, and then we present with the actual results. So these are real cases that went to court, and we talk through about how this was actually found to be you know, biased against Martin and his job offer, because at the end of the day, his offer, his, you know, diabetes was under control, he could control it, there was no medical concerns. And so it was found to be illegal to discriminate against him in this way. And so the course goes through several scenarios, again, very interactive, and tells you, gives you the opportunity to discuss and to network with other people and to have a discussion around these areas. Unconscious bias is a section that we look at unconscious bias in the Introduction to Diversity and Inclusion course. And we talk about the importance of unconscious bias in the workplace. So just as an example, this is a favourite of ours. If many children, when they're asked to draw a scientist, will come up with ideas like this. You ask a child, or often an adult actually, to draw a scientist, many of them will draw white male scientists, you know, frizzy hair. Einstein has a lot to answer for. Glasses, test tubes. There's a very definite stereotype around the image of a scientist generally. What we want to know is, why aren't children drawing more like this? So we want to see more females being drawn, more female scientists. There's still stereotypes within this description. You know, she's still got test tubes, she's wearing a lab coat, we don't know what's going on with those arms and legs and the bell jars at the back. But you know, there's positive images in this as well. We see a female being described as a scientist, and this is fantastic. But we want to see more of this happening, less of the stereotypes, more of the positive images coming through about women being able to work in STEM and STEM careers. If you were to Google images of professors, you'll find the majority of them are white and male and pale. So we don't know why Trump is in there, please don't ask. So as you look through all of these images, you realise that, you know, there is a real stereotype going on. There is a reason for these stereotypes. There is a reason why children have these stereotypes. What's the reality? If you were to look at the data, you'll find that actually professors mainly are male. They mainly are white, they're mainly non-disabled, and the majority of them are significantly aged over 40. So, you know, there is these stereotypes there for a reason, and the data and the stats do back that up. If you were to look at the population, though, the UK population generally, there's a very stark contrast in that the female population is actually slightly weighted towards female population, so almost 51% female. Disabled, 21% of our workforce, or sorry, of our country in the UK population is disabled in some way. Ethnic minorities, we have around about 14% of our population comes from an ethnic minority, and around about 3% of our population are LGBTQ plus. And this doesn't fit in with that stereotype of the male scientist. We want to see our scientists looking more, representing more of the population, of the UK population generally. So in the course, we talk about the impact of stereotypes, the importance of stereotypes, the fact that stereotypes start right from the womb, the minute you get pregnant, and you have these gender reveal parties. It's a girl as pink and a boy is blue. You know, for children growing up, the toys that they play with are very stereotypical. Barbie, you know, tends to be holding mainly female type jobs. She's a nurse, she's a doctor, she's a vet. You know, we want to see more engineers. But even when we see children's toys being changed, you know, so for example, the little Lottie doll at the bottom left is now, you know, there is a engineer version of her. There's still quite a few stereotypes in that engineering version as well. She's wearing a hard hat, she's got tools, she's working in what looks like some sort of manual trade, and that's not necessarily what an engineer is these days. So, you know, stereotypes do affect people's expectations, and they do reflect the fact that, you know, that these stereotypes are very harmful and can be very harmful in the workplace. People don't necessarily expect girls to go into an engineering career or to study science or to do computing at school, and those stereotypes can have massive impacts on the careers that girls and children choose. We look at the statistics behind our country and behind all of the data that we have. So, for example, a person from an ethnic minority is still 10% less likely to find work than a white person. Disabled people are still more than twice as likely to be out of work than non-disabled people. And 10 years ago, 1 in 22 of those in their 70s were still working. Today, it's 1 in 12. You know, the workplace is changing. We need to try and ensure that everybody has equal access to the jobs, the opportunities, and the careers that they wish to have. So we talked through the business case for diversity. Why should we have diversity in our organizations? Why should we make our organizations more inclusive? And one of those reasons is by looking at the STEM pipeline. So this is looking at the GCSE subjects and the pipeline of children into STEM careers. There's nothing more convincing than data and statistics, and these are real data statistics available on the WISE website. We take and we look at the workplace statistics each year, and we also look at the education statistics and the qualifications of girls and women going into STEM careers. So if we look at the STEM pipeline, GCSE subjects, mainly GCSE, it's about 50-50, male-female, maths and science. That's because it's mandatory. Everybody has to do it. When you look at the non-mandatory subjects, computing and engineering, you're decreasing to around about 10%, 21%. You know, you can already see this pipeline tightening around the number of female students taking these careers. At A-level, we start seeing a stark difference between the more female-dominated sciences and the ones that are more data-driven potentially. Chemistry and biology tend to have a pretty good representation of female students. Physics, maths and computing, again, we're seeing this pipeline decreasing and tightening. And by the time you get onto degree level, then that pipeline is decreasing further. So physical sciences, your chemistries, your physics, all those areas, around about 43% female graduates. So again, in chemistry, it's gone down. When you look at mathematical sciences, decreased to about 40%. Computing science and engineering technology are now getting very low at around about 16% of females taking an undergraduate degree. And so when you come to the workforce, these numbers persist. And so, you know, if you've got less children, less girls going into computing at, say, GCSE, it's not unsurprising you'll have fewer professionals, fewer ICT professionals being female, and fewer engineering professionals being female. So all of these statistics, we talk about them again in much more detail on the course, but all of these statistics are available on our website in the business case for diversity. And so we talk about why the business case for diversity asks, you know, why all of these statistics, what's the background, what's the reasoning behind these statistics. And we talk about the fact that having a more diverse workforce means that you have a better choice of workers, your productivity will increase, your products and and the experience that your customers have will be much better just because you have a diverse workforce. All of this is inherent in the, you know, having a more diverse workforce will improve your results. And not only will it improve it in the softer, softer skills, but it'll also improve it in areas financially as well. So the data to the right, the graph to the right, shows you a gender portfolio from a world index compared against a portfolio that doesn't have heavily dominated or heavily gender dominated industries and companies. And you can see that those companies that have a higher proportion of females and senior females in them do better financially than those companies that don't. So the stats are there, the numbers are there, and we go through all of that on the course. Just quickly, one of the slides that we find really resonates with our attendees on the course. So we remind people about the difference between inequality, equality, equity, and justice. And so here on this slide, we show the example of an apple tree, which is heavily weighted to one side, so that one employee seems to be getting all the low-hanging fruits much more easily. This is inequality. This is these people who are getting the jobs, who are attaining jobs more easily than those that aren't necessarily in a network or don't know the people in the organisation. Equality is when you give both of the employees equal access in terms of opportunities. So this is where you offer equal access to jobs. You offer the opportunity for organisations for training, all of these different things. The question is, are your employees that are at a disadvantage or more of a disadvantage to begin with, are they going to be given this? Are they going to get the same results at the end of the day and the same opportunities for progression? And as you can see from this image, that's not necessarily the case. If they're not in the same, you know, if they're not in the right networks, if they don't work the right hours, if they're not in a fully equitable system, they don't necessarily get given those opportunities. And so equity is where you have custom tools. This might be a women female leadership only course. It might be extra training coming back from maternity leave, all these different options and training tools. But true justice is when you fix the system, is when you make it so that nobody needs these additional tools, additional support. Everybody truly has equal access to gain recognition and to gain their career progression across the system equally, regardless of gender, disability, ethnic background, all of these areas. We also heavily focus on sharing best practice from our members. So WISE has a program called the WISE 10 Steps. It's available to all of our members for free, and it supports the attraction. So it's 10 steps to support the attraction and retention of a diverse STEM workforce. So the idea is that this is underpinned by benchmarking, by understanding where you are in your diversity journey and how you can improve. And a key part of the 10 steps is that we have shared best practice, and that we share examples from all of our members, and we have those practical examples. And so that forms a key part of the Introduction to Diversity course, are those practical examples and practical case studies that we can share to show what other companies have done in these areas. As you can see, our 10-step signatories, we have a wide range of companies who are part of the 10-step signatory, and they're companies that have signed up as signatories for WISE 10 Steps, and all of them share best practice. All of them share their knowledge through the 10 steps. So we have a huge range of reports and online resources, all of which are available to our members on our website. And so we look at many different areas: returners, retrainers. We offer information from knowledge sharing events that we've held. So we've got a huge resource of this information and best practice to share. And so as part of the course, we talk about these case studies and these best practices. So for example, here we talk about HS2 and their reverse mentoring scheme. We give some examples of what they've done in building that reverse mentoring scheme, how it's helped support their employees, the advantages of having this reverse mentoring scheme. We talk about companies like Shell, who offer, sort of diversity and inclusion days, who try to improve the communication of their policies throughout their organisation. And so very practical examples of how companies are improving diversity and inclusion and ensuring that they really make this practical action and practical change across the company. At the end of the training, we have a strong focus on practical action. So you've learned a bit about the diversity case, you've learned a bit about unconscious bias. What's your next step for this going to be? Where are you going to go? How are you going to make this into practical action to really make changes? It might be that if you're an HR professional, you'll think about offering or changing your recruitment practice, for example, to be more equitable. It might be that you think about including a new training course or offering a leadership program. It might just be as simple as you want to find out a bit more about unconscious bias, and so you're going to take the Harvard implicit test, and you're going to find out what your personal biases are or what you could do about them. And so we ask attendees to think about practical actions, and we give them ideas on how they can move forward and make changes and improve their diversity, their attitude to becoming a more diverse workforce. So if you are interested in one of these training courses, then you can email our, there's information on our website, so there's a web link here. If you go on and you look at, it's a tab called What We Do. Under training, there's the Introduction to Diversity and Inclusion course. There's a bit more information on there. And you can email info@wisecampaign.org.uk, and we'd be very happy to have a conversation with you and talk about, how we can tailor this training or offer training further and more widely for your workforce. Okay, so do we have any questions that have come through? I'm hoping that's give you a bit of a taster. So if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them into the questions section. So one question that's come in is, does the course focus on gender specifically? So as WISE, we have a history of focusing on trying to get females and increasing the female workforce in STEM specifically. The Introduction to Diversity and Inclusion training has been tailored so that we specifically try to focus a bit less on gender and focus more widely on diversity generally. So the statistics naturally at the moment are more focused on gender. We plan to put in a change to that, and we're going to try and improve that and widen the statistics as we move through and change this course. But overall, anything that we talk about on the course, even if it does focus on gender, naturally because of our background, it's very important to point out that all of these actions, all of these learnings can be equally applied to any of the protected characteristics. Changing your attitude in diversity and inclusion will enable you to make improvements in all of those protected characteristic areas. What's the current method of delivery? So we would love to have it face-to-face. Unfortunately, at the moment with COVID, that's not necessarily an option all the time. So we offer an online delivery at the moment. Generally around about, we recommend 12 to 14 people in a course. We have done it for much bigger groups of people. We've recently done them for groups of up to 50. What we do find is that we can't offer that interaction so much in the larger groups, and it's better as a short, sharp webinar or a reminder taster session rather than the full 4-hour course. But yeah, so full 4-hour course we can offer online, or any of the taster sessions online as well. The ethnicity figure, somebody's asking if it's 14% when women and men, or 14% of women. It's 14% generally across the UK population. Another question come in. So can non-members access the training too? Yes, if you're not a member of WISE, we can offer a training session, and as a advantage, you do get a year's free membership of our WISE network, so you can access all of the information and our 10 steps case studies as well. So there's a real advantage there. Is the course suitable for those working in academia? So we are doing some taster sessions for people working in academia. We are actually we've got a company who is, well, I would say, more academic than corporate based. So a lot of their researchers have very academic backgrounds. We are doing a course for them in a few weeks' time, and we can tailor the course slightly. I wouldn't. Yeah, we can have a chat about how that would work, and whether there's any differences in the delivery of the course, as I do understand that it can be a bit different sometimes, academic to business and industry. So yeah, please do get in contact with that particular question again. Okay, so somebody's just asked if the presentation will be available for sharing, or we're going to have a recording. There will be a recording of this webinar on our website. Anybody can access that, doesn't have to be just members. So please do go on and have a look at that later on. Okay, any other questions? I think that's the majority of the questions. If I haven't answered your question, please don't hesitate to get in contact, and we can answer your questions personally and more individually to discuss personal options. So yes, please, if you do want to get in contact, our email address is info@wisecampaign.org.uk, and all of the information on the diversity and inclusion training can be found on our website at wisecampaign.org.uk. And other than that, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time this morning, and if you do have any questions, please do get in contact. We'd be delighted to have a conversation. Thank you.